Hi you guys, it's Holly. As a beginning sewer and a self-taught seamstress, sometimes I come up against a little bit of problems that seem to get me a little frustrated, or things that I have to eventually teach myself because I don't have a teacher. So I'm going to be compiling a series of different beginner sewing tips of little things that I've come up against and how I solve them in very easy ways. And hopefully these will help make your sewing much more fun and much more enjoyable and easier. The first one is going to be finding your right stitch. I'm lucky because I have a sewing machine that actually tells me or recommends a certain stitch width and stitch length for each stitch that I choose. I'm going to show you guys. Okay, so this is my Genome sewing machine and these are my stitches. This is where they recommend the width and the length, and this is where I adjust the width and the length. So I turn this knob and wherever that little red dot goes is what stitch it's on. So I will take it to the basic zigzag stitch. And they recommend for this stitch a width of 5 and a length of 1.5. And I guess that's what they assume would be a standard. So for width, I would put it on 5. And for length, I'd put it on 1.5. But sometimes when you're sewing certain garments, you want your stitch to sometimes be shorter. Sometimes you don't want it to be as wide or as long as the recommended width, but being a beginning sewer, you don't know it off the top of your head exactly what width and length you would choose. So sometimes, personally, I will start sewing by guessing the width and the length that I want, and it'll mess up my garment sometimes because the stitch won't be the right size. And sometimes I'll just keep on going with it because I already started that way, or sometimes I will actually try to fix it in the middle of sewing, but it really irritates me. So I came up with a really easy way to solve that. So this really simple way I figured out how to solve it to prevent you from accidentally using the wrong width and length for your stitches is with these index cards. And these are 4x6, so they're larger than your average little flashcards that you would get for class, but they're actually the same exact price, it's just a bigger size. You're going to want to get index cards that don't have any lines on either side, are blank. And so this is what I do with this index card to make sure my stitch is the right size. Okay, so to start, I set my sewing machine on the recommended width or length. And if your sewing machine doesn't have these settings, it's okay. You can just start wherever you might guess where the width or the length would be. So I put it on the regular stitch. I'm going to use my index card or flash card, whatever one you want to call it, and I'm going to sew my stitches on this card and use my judging that way. So starting from the very edge, I sew the flash card just like this. And as you see, this zigzag stitch is actually kind of wide. If you were to sew something, you know, if you were to do a zigzag stitch on a dress or anything dainty at all, you wouldn't want a stitch this wide. This is very, very wide. So now that I notice, I will compare this to my garment that I want to sew on the hemmed edge or whatever it is that I have pinned ready to sew, and I will make my judgments that way by placing it right next to each other. And so I'll look at it and I'll be like, well, it's kind of wide. I want to bring it in some, so I'm going to drop the width to 4, and the length, I would like the zigzag stitch to be tighter in this way. I would like the zigzag stitch to be tighter in this way, so I will drop the length from 1.5 to just 1, and then I will continue to sew. And now you can see a physical difference from where you started and where you adjusted it to. And I can take this zigzag stitch compared to my garment and see if this is the size that I actually want. And if it is, then I can go ahead and continue to sew my garment. And if it's still not how I want it, I can continue to make adjustments to the width and the length. But I do this all without ruining my garment. And this pack of index cards cost me less than $2, and it came with 100 cards. So imagine all of the sewing blunders that you will not have due to an inexpensive index card. So I hope that you guys use this, and I hope that it helps you guys out. And that was beginning sewer tip number 1.